This is Things You Might Not Have Heard, and I'm Jay Cleveland Payne with you today. 8 stories in the queue from the past day, yesterday, Tuesday, to give you your Wednesday headlines that are vetted by you, conversational topics covering information, politics, current events, and pop culture news. We have Kamala Harris in the news. We have Mark Robinson, who ain't gone away, and Victoria's Secret is back with a, we'll say, vengeance. We'll get to those stories and 5 others in the queue for you today. Let you know the vetting process will explain the full notion of how we get stories into these headlines, how these headlines get into this rundown every single morning, and how you can be involved in more things with the Conversation Project. 2 things to keep an eye on right now. Our website, this is theconversationproject.com. All details you need to know about us is at the website, essentially. And you can email us for comments, concerns, and conversation, as you will, at the conversation inbox at gmail.com. Anytime you're up to that, you can do that as well. If I've not said it so far, today happens to be Wednesday, October the 16th, 2024. And on this day, as we said, 8 stories are ready for you. No particular order as they're being presented in a moment, but we'll give you some context on how they got to be in our headlines as we do this thing. And of course, at the end of the headlines, we'll get to the teaser story and how we actually vet the stories to get to you here. Story number 1, headline number 1, on the most important topic that is now about 20 or so days away to be done, or at least to be starting to be done, is the election in the United States. President Donald Trump, former president, Vice President, current Kamala Harris, running for this high office again to be number 47. Now, what will happen in the meantime? Well, they're doing a hard, last, fast push to do whatever they can to promote themselves, get the word out to people who, with 20 days till election, said they didn't know what's going to happen, or at least people who don't quite know what's going on. And there is some actual contention that's saying you don't really know who the candidates are, even though Donald Trump's been president already and has been saying these things for all this time. But Kamala Harris is kind of a new-ish type of person to some of these things. And if you've only seen the sort of boring things she did in Congress as a senator and just sort of her sitting on the sidelines as vice president, you may not know exactly what she's going to say. You may not trust her. So she's going on to a new blitz of media because she's essentially avoiding it, after killing the candidacy of one Joe Biden. She is rumored to be going on the Joe Rogan podcast soon. Now, no one's said whether it's going to happen or not, but Joe Rogan is a totally different animal. Yesterday, and we're going to sneak this story in here. Yesterday, she had a chance to do a town hall, an audio town hall, radio town hall with Charlamagne the God to kind of talk about some Detroit stuff, some Michigan stuff, some things there after Donald Trump bashed Detroit in Detroit, and the reviews were mixed. One, Charlamagne did go after her hard on a couple issues, but 2, he seemed to let her stay on script a lot. So the word salads were there. Will this happen with a Joe Rogan podcast where she may sit for 3 hours and maybe smoke pot? She probably won't smoke pot, but she'll sit for 3 hours with Joe Rogan, who actually does have poignant questions, even if he goes down rabbit holes and kind of gets to the big old playing up to his audience, which is basically 80% men and around 55% men under 35. We will see how this happens. If it happens, of course, Donald Trump has taken the non-traditional route and doing a lot of podcasts these days and not doing much in the way of mainstream media. Kamala Harris not doing much of either, although she's going to get her first Fox News interview today or tomorrow being taped coming forward. And we'll see if the Joe Rogan thing, the experience for her, actually does become an experience. Headline number 2. Not getting rid of Mark Robinson just yet as a new North Carolina GOP governor candidate. The current lieutenant governor, Mark Robinson, is filing a $50 million defamation lawsuit against CNN. The Republican candidate for governor, Mark Robinson, filed a $50 million defamation lawsuit against CNN, announced on Tuesday, yesterday, stemming from the CNN report that Robinson claims misrepresented him with his past posts on pornography sites and defamed his character. Robinson, a prominent Republican figure, it also included former porn star clerk in the lawsuit. The guy that said, "Yeah, I knew him. He was there all the time. He brought pizzas." He argues that the report and related allegations are politically motivated and aimed at damaging his campaign for governor in North Carolina, as he is suing the tar out of CNN and a couple of the folks who are tarring him as a porn, won't say addict, let's say aficionado, that he likes his porn. Yeah, let's move on. U.S. warns Israel of potential halt to arms transfer if Gaza aid is not distributed. This is a very serious story, so bear with me for this one. Where I know we're jumping from what is a very oddball story, but this is one that has extreme implications going forward for the world and the region where Israel lives and the tensions that are there. The Biden administration has warned Israel that it must increase the flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza or risk the halt of U.S. arms that's used to defend itself. A private letter signed by U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says that Israel has given 30 days to improve its delivery to Gaza. This comes as part of the effort to alleviate the humanitarian crisis that's in the region, and the failure to comply would jeopardize the future of U.S. weapons sales and funding to Israel. We will hold back on actual stuff if they don't fix the aid issues. We're saying it right now in private words, but the word is out that it's happening. It's being pushed. The warning reflects increasing international pressure on Israel to address the situation in Gaza, which it gets worse. They are defending themselves from what is a heinous attack, but making it worse doesn't make it better. And right now, there's a lot of worse being pushed out in the defense. Our fourth story for this morning, going back to voting, going back to the election, going back to the time that's running out. Yesterday was the first day of early voting for Georgia, and Georgians, the Georgia folks, they cast a record number of early votes for the ongoing election. Record number of votes for the casting and election kicks off on yesterday in the battleground state for Georgia as people are battling for that one, and people are starting to worry whether their votes are going to actually count. People want to get in there early to take care of it. Voters turning out in large numbers, reflecting the high stakes and competitive nature of the elections. The surge in early voting suggesting a stronger voter engagement with both political parties, rallying their bases to ensure high participation. This, as we say, every election essentially is the most important election ever, and this one is a kind of an important one. And so with all the shenanigans that are being posed that may happen, real or imaginary, or sometimes imposed by imaginary shenanigans, people are trying to make sure that their vote is cast and their vote does count. And the best way to do it is in person. So why not do it early? Because it is available. Early voting is one of the greatest inventions we've had in the last 20, 30 years, making the technology make it work. So if you can get out there and vote early to make sure that your vote is cast, you should go ahead and do that. We're going to take a quick pause to let you get a chance to help us out in our promotion of what's going on for the Conversation Project. We would like you to like, share, and subscribe our content. Like the video you're watching right now so that more people will see the social proof that we are producing fairly good stuff. It's not just trash. It's not just tabloid. It's actual news content with a little bit of commentary, and the commentary is mine. I claim it all, but it's all things that are top of mind and conversational topics that people want to talk about. It's not just one particular thing that's just sort of hammered in your head because it got a funny laugh on the Daily Show, so people are basically jumping onto it to ape the content. We go through and ask you what stories are worth talking about, and we talk about them. That's what we have here. 4 more on the way after this quick break. Share what we're doing with other folks so more people can engage with us and get more out of the Conversation Project and more conversational people into the Conversation Project. See how it works like that? And subscribe to our videos, our audios, our work if you're not getting it on your own, if you're not just seeing it kind of come across your feeds every so often. If you subscribe to it, it will be in your feeds every single day. This program here is done every single weekday morning for give you a live to tape for you to watch it later, update on stories that were conversational people were talking about the day prior. So you want to know what's happening in the world and what people are really getting into, check out our stuff attached to it live, follow the feeds live. You'll see what we're doing each and every day for the Conversation Project. With that, let's get back to the news, back to the actual headlines that were out there. And this headline is going to deal with this one. And this one is Trader Joe's and Kroger and some other brands who are a part of the big BrucePac meat recall for listeria. Listeria is all the rage these days, and not for good reason. The disease or the bacteria that's causing lots of people illnesses and disease is apparently everywhere. And right now, there's massive recall for 10 million pounds of meat and poultry products that are produced by BrucePac. Listeria monocytogenes, which I totally butchered, but it's listeria. Recall affects ready-to-eat foods sold at various brands, including Trader Joe's, Target, Kroger, Aldi, and Boston Market. many others as well. So if you have the packages, look at the link that we have here for the story and see if it comes from your stuff. There'll be identifying markers on that have been sold from basically all the way back in April all the way to October. If you have it, take it back to the store for a refund, or if it's way past refund time, you don't have that stuff, throw it away. They can cause serious infections in elderly, young children, and individuals with weakened immune systems. This is a routine recall because when you get listeria bacteria outbreaks, you basically recall the issues. Don't try to tough it out. Don't say, "Oh, my stomach's good enough for it." If you have the stuff, you need to go ahead and get rid of it. Headline for story number 6: North Korea blows up parts of inner Korean roads in a symbolic display of anger. What do you do when you're mad at your partner? You literally destroy the road home so you can't get back together. And that is what North Korea is doing. They're demolishing parts of inner Korean roads and railways on its northern region that appear to be symbolic and display anger. Now, the routes were essentially bad routes anyway. North and south of roads and train tracks that have fallen to disuse aren't really being used very much. So it's not like they've been, there's not a lot of travel between the two. So they have not been exactly kept up anyway. But it's not because they're going to clear the way to make better roads. They're clearing the way so that those roads cannot be used, period. The destruction is seen as a protest against South Korea's conservative government and increasing tensions between the two countries. Roads were originally part of efforts to promote reconciliation and cooperation, but that's not happening right now. Definitely the shift that North Korea has towards the South and what's happening. North Korea is, of course, sending over balloons of garbage, and South Korea is still trying to, send propaganda, for lack of a better term. But for the moment, right now, the road towards a reconciliation and a peace not happening under current regimes. As I said in the teaser part, the opening of the statement, Victoria's Secret is back. Well, it never actually went away. The stores are there. They've downsized and done some shifting and done some changing in the way they actually handled their wares. And now they are actually back with something in a new way, the fashion show. Victoria's Secret looks to revamp the runway with its first fashion show since the inclusivity rebrand. So the fashion show is making some shifts. The first fashion show since the undergoing inclusivity driven rebrand is taking away the angels and the narrow beauty of portrayal they have with that, something more inclusive, something that brings out all features, including diverse range of models, plus size women, transgender individuals as well. They're basically hitting all bases and making sure that everyone feels like they can wear their pretty underwear. The branding aims to change the narratives around beauty standards and what is sexy. What does sexy mean? It means a lot of things to a lot of different people, and what they have will fit what you have, allowing women to define it for themselves because it's what it's all about. The move is part of a broader effort to revamp the image and market demand for authenticity, where I always butcher, and diversity in their sales. We'll see if it works. Victoria's Secret has found a way to survive, even though it's no longer just a pretty underwear store in the mall. It is finding a way to at least stay relevant in some cases. Will the fashion show be something to keep it relevant? We shall see. And finally, our number 8 story for this morning. And we're not showing the man, we're showing the actual bridge, because this is a story that's a cautionary tale for all of us, especially those of us with younger people who are all into social media content and trying to do things for the clicks. A British man plunged to his death while climbing a bridge in Spain to create social media content. We're mourning the death of a 26-year-old British man who tragically died attempting to climb the Castilla-La Mancha Bridge in Spain. It's the tallest bridge that they have, to create content for social media. He fell from the height of around 600 feet. The act of climbing the bridge is prohibited by local authorities. Basically say you can't do that because of the dangers that involved. And we saw the dangers involved. The incidents of this are growing concerns over the very risky stunts performed by people in social media. Not all the young, by the way. Some of them are too young at heart, in fact. Especially attention around this bridge in central Spain, which is a popular spot for thrill seekers, despite the obvious hazards. Now, as we're going to say right here, our big disclaimer is: please don't do this stuff. It may look cool, and the big All the stuff people doing stunts and flips and things like that for social media seems like a great thing to do and gets people watching your social medias and watching your feeds, but your health is not worth it. This was not worth it for the young man who was 26 years old. No more content being made by him, no more life, no more growth from him because of what was essentially a dumb idea. So remember that if you're trying to do something for some attention, some publicity, stunts like these are never worth the time or the never worth the time or the effort. So now we're going to get to our teaser story for the morning. This is a story that we tease, a story that we could talk about in the future, should you deem it conversational, worthy of the chat. And this is where we explain what that means, how we get our stories. Why do we pick the 8 stories you had for you this morning? We provided about 30 or so stories in the past 30 hours when we pulled this from midnight to about 4 a.m. this morning. And in that 30 hours and 30 stories, we took the top half of stories, about 15 or so from the top half, and pulled 8 that sounded like the best way to do a narrative, 8 stories that were the best in my eye. If you don't think they were the right ones, or you want to make sure that other ones get more attention, put your engagement into the stories, and we know which stories to start to choose from and do our best to make the narrative. Go to our feeds, facebook.com/this is conversation project, x.com/th underscore conversation, and threads.net at this is conversation. What you do at those places is you see our stories. We post them every 50 minutes or so on our feed, so you can engage in them. You can tell us what stories look good by clicking the emoji face that you want to give to it, or responding to it with a reply with some sort of comment, sharing with other people as well. The higher engagement a story gets, better chance we have of talking about it in the next iteration. So we'll get 8 stories for tomorrow from the top 15 stories from today that you deem as conversational. If you want to comment on which stories should be put out there, if we've missed one you thought would be out there, or you're wondering why we didn't cover something, email us and let us know and complain on the back end, if you will. This story, I think, is going to have some legs. I think we'll talk about this one because it's an interesting take on how things work for people who get a shot at the big time. Tom Brady is going to get a chance to purchase the Las Vegas Raiders, or at least a share of the Raiders. He's not going to be the full owner, which is coming a bit of a head scratcher because he also has a job where he talks about football players and football teams live on the air. Now, this is actually not all that unfamiliar. Many analysts and big time analysts have businesses that work around either they own parts of agencies or agents for players, or they own parts of, like Chris Collinsworth owns a very big stats program that covers all the stats for all the NFL teams. And on Sunday nights and some Super Bowls, he gets a chance to call those games. So this is not so much a conflict of interest, but it is kind of showing how things work. He's going to go deeper into telling how it works for Tom Brady and why he's buying the Raiders and not the Chargers or anybody else. Check out the story, read it for yourself, get the details, and comment, and of course, engage in the story. We'll talk about the story if this is one you deem worthy of the extra chat. You've got to do that. We'll get it all going for you guys. Meantime, take a moment to talk about our sponsor for the day, which is Blinkist. The Blinkist app, you can find it online. If you use our link to get to it, we get a small commission because all our partners are commission sponsors. So click on the link at our website. Go to thisisconversationproject.com/Blinkist, Blinkist, to get the Blinkist app. And why do you want the Blinkist app? Because you're here for quick news and relevant news. We give you relevant stories by picking stories that are conversational. That's kind of a gimmick, but it is what it is. And we'll give you quick headlines and stories on those, plus a little bit of perspective. You can think how you want to, and you can call me all the names you want to. The perspective is mine, and you give you a bit of something to go with that. And with Blinkist, you get a good bit of news from the books that you want to read and get them in a quick bit of time. Perspective, there is some perspective in the rundowns, but 15 minutes is essentially what you need to read a book via the Blinkist app, either reading it in the text versions, or you can listen to it in audio versions for the blinks. These are summaries that give you perfect on-the-go pieces of what a book is all about. So some books are more, some books are less, and some of those really long 12-hour unabridged books may take 20, 30 minutes. But guess what? 20, 30 minutes is different than 12 hours. Anywhere, anytime, you can learn something whenever you get a small point of time, or you can actually schedule out for yourself. I use Blinkist on the way to work, listen to one book on the way in the drive in. I listen to one book before I go to bed every night, so I get some knowledge. And when I have downtime throughout the day, I'll check out a couple books in the list. Sooner or later, I'll get back to the Blinkist book club list where I give you some of the books that I read, and so you can get some perspective of that one. But you can do it for yourself. It's something for everyone with books covering personal development, science, business, history, and more. Checking them out by using our link and get a 60% discount on premium subscriptions. You should check that out as well. Go to our link for Blinkist, which is this. It's a conversationproject.com/Blinkist. This is a conversationproject.com/Blinkist. The Blinkist app is a great app to have, and our links for our affiliate links give us a small commission for you joining in with using our links. So if you want to give us some support, help us out, it costs you nothing extra. Just go to our sponsors page, visit any of our sponsors, and definitely check out the Blinkist app. Let's talk about us for a quick moment and the Conversation Project. Conversation Project lives online at this is conversationproject.com. I am very proud of what we do here at the Conversation Project, but we want you to, of course, join with us as well. If you deem us worthy, consider going to our partnership page and becoming a partner and helping us out that way, directly funding and directly giving input to the Conversation Project. Maybe one day we'll get enough funds and I can, put on real clothes and not just sweatpants before I do my news every morning, although I think it's very much. What you get at the Conversation Project's website, this is conversationproject.com, is updates and replays and archives of past stories, past work, links to where we are, wherever we are, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, X, and more. And of course, the origin story of the conversation, links to our partnerships page, links to our conversation sponsors page, and more. Plus, it's just a cool place to have on your bookmark. So check it out as well. If you don't deem us worthy of being a partner, or you don't have the funds for a sponsor, you can do things to help us stay relevant by just doing the regular things we need everyone to do. Go to our feeds on Facebook, on X, on Threads. Let us know what stories are conversational so we can get the right stories in these feeds or in the story headlines, so we can get the right stories to you people out there. And comment to us via email. Cost you absolutely nothing extra. We read all the comments, we read all the emails. You don't give extra weight to the paid subscribers because they're paid subscribers. We just we take all input equally. So if you want to give input, but you don't have the funds to be a partner, just send us an email. We'll read it. We'll take it in consideration. Check us out. All those things online, all the things you need to know about us at our online home. This is conversationproject.com. And with that, we are wrapping it up for this thing here, which is Things You Might Not Have Heard. The Wednesday, October 16th edition of Things You Might Have Heard is done for today, for 2024 at least. We will come to you in a few minutes after we reset a couple buttons, do some things with the second show, which is called Things You Might Ought to Know. The fun stuff, birthdays, history lesson, and a fun thing to celebrate coming up in mere moments. Whether live in the moment, it's about 6 a.m. We'll get this thing turned around in the moment. That's my crutch word for day is in the moment, or in a replay in the separate feed. So check it out wherever you're getting it from. If you'd like them both combined, let me know. We may do that again, but this gives you the pithy version of the news. The news is now done. Let's move on to the fun stuff in just a bit. In the meantime, love you so much for being a part of the show with us, being part of the family. Engage in the stories on the feeds. We need your engagement on the feed so we get more people in the headlines, in the stories, in what we're doing. That's how we get things done here. Love you so much. Mean it completely. We're going to do this again for a Thursday edition, which will be tomorrow, Thursday.